Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. On this week's program, we talk with the administrator of the Farm Service Agency in Washington, D.C., Zack Ducheneaux. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, and the weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association, and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agriculture news, U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai released the 2024 National Trade Estimate Report on foreign trade barriers. It provides a comprehensive review of the significant foreign barriers to U.S. exports of goods and services, U.S. foreign direct investments, and U.S. electronic commerce in key export markets for America. The NTE report highlights cross-cutting barriers affecting U.S. agriculture trade, including opaque and burdensome facility registration requirements like Indonesia's unnecessary requirements for dairy, meat, and rendering products. It does include China's requirements across a wide range of food and agricultural products like sanitary and phytosanitary measures that aren't based on science and are maintained without scientific evidence or are applied beyond the necessary extent. Other significant barriers include Mexico's policies regarding agricultural biotechnology products and the European Union's non-science-based policies affecting innovative crop protection policies. The U.S. Trade Representative's office is determined to ensure that producers can compete on a level playing field globally. Well, Kansas corn growers intend to plant 5.7 million acres of corn this year, down 1% from 2023, according to the National Ag Statistics Service. Soybeans planted acres expected to be at 4.25 million acres. That's down 4% from last year, while winter wheat acres seeded in the fall was estimated at 7.7 million, down 5% from a year ago. Sorghum growers in Kansas intend to plant 3.35 million acres, down 7% from a year ago. The all-hay acreage to be harvested expected to total 2.4 million acres, down 14% from last year's acreage. Sunflower producers expect to plant a record low 24,000 acres. That's down 29% from 2023. Oil varieties account for 20,000 acres, down 29% from a year ago, and a record low if realized. Non-oil varieties made up the balance of the 4,000 acres. That's down 33% and a record low if it does become realized. Oat intentions estimated 195,000 acres, up 5% from a year ago. Canola expected to be at 8,500 acres. That's up 467% from last year. Barley expected to be 18,000 acres, up 13% from last year. And cotton producers expect to plant 110,000 acres. That's down 2% from a year ago. Estimates in this report based on the survey conducted the first 2 weeks of March. We'll have more in a moment here on the Kansas Ag Report.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
And we're pleased to be joined now by Zack Ducheneaux, who is the Farm Service Agency Director at the USDA. Mr. Ducheneaux, appreciate you joining us.
Always a pleasure, Ken. Look forward to a visit.
We are going to talk about a very important program that producers, if they're not aware of it, I think we've talked a lot about it, but to again, encourage folks to participate if they need to be part of this ELAP program. Let's talk about this emergency livestock program and what it all entails.
Well, first, the program is the Emergency Assistance for Livestock, Honeybees, and Farm Raised Fish program. I don't know why it got shortened up to ELAP instead of something more creative than that, but there we are. And ELAP is kind of the catch-all program for our supplemental disaster assistance programs, which were first authorized in the late 2000s and then made permanent in the 2014 Farm Bill. And these are programs that are aimed to help where other programs really don't fit well. So ELAP has been available to producers, but in the last 3 years, we've taken a look at all of our livestock programs, Ken, and given a lot of thought to what we can do to improve the safety net for our livestock producers, as these are most generally targeted towards them.
And this administration has really taken a keen focus into to include as many possible in this, and especially in our area, and what we're talking about here in the High Plains is some of these natural disasters and the fires, especially, and those that
Yeah,
had some recent experience, especially.
yeah, absolutely. And we had a chance to tour the four-county fire shortly after it went through there and had a chance to see the damage firsthand. Of course, familiar with wildfire damage, but the scope there really warranted some consideration. And one of the reasons that we're talking today is we have taken a look at that, worked with some of our colleagues on the Hill, and found a pathway to allow for a retroactive application of this policy change, where we can help producers with grazing losses on improved pasture with permanent vegetative cover and native pasture with permanent vegetative cover when in the unique circumstance of wildfires like this.
Right, and we know that those from the four county fire, and we've had some already this year in the fire season that has impacted. What are some of the key things that producers need to have with them when they go to their FSA office to be a part and enroll in the ELAP program?
Well, it all starts with the farm number, and in many cases, we found that the livestock programs haven't really been valuable enough for producers to come in and take advantage and sign up and get a farm number. So getting a farm number is first and foremost. But as far as documentation, we have documentation requirements that we need to fulfill to ensure program integrity. But given that we're doing a retroactive application of this policy change, we understand that there was no reason for a producer to be documenting this. So our guidance to our staff is to be lenient, be flexible, be accommodating, and make sure that we're getting producers in the door so that we can start this off on a proper footing.
We are talking with Farm Service Agency Administrator Zack Ducheneaux, talking about the Emergency Livestock Assistance Program and all those that go with it. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back and talk more about it in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com.
And our special guest is Zack Ducheneaux, who is the administrator for the Farm Service Agency at the USDA. We're talking about the Emergency Livestock Assistance Programs and all those that go with it. And especially we wanted to talk with producers to make sure that they're aware that if they did experience a loss on grasslands or within the livestock programs, to be sure to sign up. Now, there has been an extension on this kind of current sign up. So, what are some of those deadlines upcoming?
Yes, it's a little more than an extension. So this is a
Okay.
policy change, and it's going to move us to a 365-day grazing period instead of the grazing season or the growing season. There's always been a tension between growing season and grazing period, especially where producers are taking the proactive, conservation-minded step to leave some standing forage. And this is what we're looking at with this particular policy enhancement, is to be able to improve a producer's ability to receive assistance in times when that standing forage is lost due to wildfire. So we've got a enrollment period for this specific subset of ELAP that's going to run until May 23rd. And of course, with all of our programs, there are late filing options because sometimes our outreach doesn't get out there. In this case, those late filing options don't exist unless granted by the state executive director. But we tend to try to be flexible in cases where it was beyond the producer's ability to know about the program, because we want to get them in the door. We're out to keep the farmers on the farm out here.
And as this program now is continuing to expand just a bit and making it available year round, say a producer says, well, I don't know if I have a big enough claim or if this is something I really want to do, or maybe they were denied at one time. You are still encouraging them to go through the process, and there may be a process to get them to approval. Is that correct?
Well, first and foremost, for all of our programs, Ken, our producers are our citizen stakeholders in this. And I encourage every producer, everywhere I go, to turn in an application, even if it's a piece of paper that says, I would like to participate in XYZ program, because that ensures you're going to get your due process rates. If you come in and have a verbal conversation, or you talk with someone over at the feed store and they say, yeah, I don't think you qualify, you're out. And we don't have really anything then to scope unmet need. So I always encourage folks to apply, and our staff love to have you come into the office and visit anyway. But it's important that you leave something behind that memorializes your time there.
Okay, Mr. Ducheneaux, now folks want to learn more than just our short time here today about the ELAP program or other programs available with the Farm Service Agency. How's the best way to do that?
A good way to do that is go to farmers.gov and track us down through the FSA portion of farmers.gov. We've got a fact sheet on ELAP. Our handbooks that we use to implement the program are actually online as well. Just Google FSA handbooks. Producers are always encouraged to come in, talk to your local county office folks. Thank them on my behalf because I can't get to all of them. And my phone number and email are on the website for everybody to use freely. And I hope they take advantage of that opportunity.
All right. We appreciate spending time, Administrator, and know you've got a busy schedule, but we can get the word out to producers, and hopefully we have more participation as well. So thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Zack Ducheneaux is the Administrator of the Farm Service Agency. He's there in Washington, D.C. So we'll take a break, and we'll come back with more in just a moment.
Anything I can help you locate today?
Yeah, I'm looking for some grass seed, but I can never figure out which type to buy.
At Premier Farm at Home, you can pick your grass seed out of a field instead of off a shelf.
Really? You can do that?
At Premier, you can.
That'd be great.
Let me take you to our plots.
Everyone has lawn problems. At Premier Farm and Home, we see it as an opportunity to earn your trust.
This is so helpful.
Only place in the Midwest.
With each problem we help you solve, you'll gain confidence and find that no one can take care of your lawn like you can.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Bake and Take Month, celebrated each March, is a great chance for families and service groups to get together in the kitchen. Prepare gifts of fresh baked wheat foods for relatives, friends, coworkers, neighbors, and just about anyone who likes to eat. The visit when you deliver the baked goods is one of the most enjoyable aspects of the tradition, which started in 1970 as a community service project for the Kansas Wheathearts, an auxiliary organization of the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. But before you celebrate, enjoy this updated parody of If You Give a Mouse a Cookie to commemorate all of the different parts of the wheat industry that come together to make those shared treats possible. Before you give a friend a loaf of bread for Bake and Take Month, you'll have to bake it first. so you will need a recipe like the winning entries from the 2023 National Festivals of Breads. But to make that recipe, you'll need ingredients like flour. To listen to the full If You Give a Friend a Loaf of Bread, check out ksweet.com/news. Looking for a specific date to share what you've learned along with a tasty treat? Mark your calendar for March 23rd, 2024 as National Bake and Take Day. Need more inspiration? Check out the recipes at eatwheat.org.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
CASE is the Curriculum for Agricultural Science Education. It's a curriculum designed to improve or incorporate more science concepts into the classroom because agriculture is inherently science-based.
Kansas Corn decided to make a very generous decision to support teachers who are certified in CASE, which is the Curriculum for Agri-Science Education. I wouldn't have been able to teach a couple of the CASE labs that I have received training for if it wasn't for the support of Kansas Corn. Kansas Corn purchased lab materials for me to teach the Clean Smoke Lab and the Energy and Feed Lab, and if it hadn't been for them buying those for me, I wouldn't be able to teach them because my school wouldn't have had those materials already. Kansas Corn purchases the materials and they go directly to the teacher, and with that I was able to teach hands-on science lessons to my kids about corn.
CASE has several different lab activities that are specific to corn, including a Clean Smoke Lab that is taught in our AF&R curriculum, as well as a Energy and Feed Lab in the Animal Science curriculum. In the Clean Smoke Lab, we compare kerosene versus ethanol and take a look at how those two produce different types of emissions. In the Energy and Feed Lab, where we burn different feedstuffs and calculate the energy concepts in those. And so they're very much hands-on labs that engage students. And Kansas Corn is unique in that they have provided a lot of those materials to agriculture and science educators in the state to have those materials so they can teach those lessons in their classroom.
My kids love both of those labs because what high schooler doesn't love playing with fire in class? So the Clean Smoke Lab was really eye-opening for my students because it wasn't just me telling them that ethanol is a clean fuel. It was them using fire and heat to figure out which one is cleaner, ethanol or kerosene. And being able to do that lab themselves and discover that, I think that made more of an impact on them. And then the Energy and Feed Lab is kind of the same thing. I can stand in the classroom and lecture all day about how livestock need corn and other grains for their energy needs, but for them to actually test the calories of different feedstuffs, they were able to better comprehend how corn is so important in the diet of livestock.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Ben and Lelania McClure own Plus One Cattle Company, which consists of cropland and cattle. They grow corn, milo, confectionery sunflowers, and wheat on irrigated and dry land and run spring and fall cattle. In the winter, the McClures run stocker cattle on their reed pastures before sending them to the local feed yard. They are grateful to raise their 4 kids, Toby, Molly, Carter, and Lindy, on the farm. Ben served on the Stevens County Farm Bureau Board of Directors. The family has been involved in YFNR, Leadership KFB, and have attended the annual conference. Within their community, the McClures are active in their 4-H club and county board, serving as club leaders and on the extension board. Ben is also a member of the Kansas Corn Board and Kansas Gelbvieh Association. Lelania serves on the USD 210 School Board and their church's worship team. They are involved in Farm Bureau to help connect with consumers and advocate for critical policy issues to protect their way of life.
Christine and Matthew Russell run red and black Angus crossbred cows and calves. They sell most of their calves but retain a few heifers every year as replacements to help grow and maintain their herd. The Russells also have pasture, brome, and alfalfa hay. Christine and Matthew grew up on a farm and bought their first 5 heifers together after they were married. Since then, their operation has grown and include Taylor, Carson, and Carl. The Russells have committed more than 20 years of service to Shawnee County Farm Bureau. They have been involved in several committees, and on the state level they have served on the YF&R committee. Christine is currently on the state's Women's Leadership Committee. Matthew is a sales rep selling seed, fertilizer, and chemicals, and does agronomy work for a local company. Christine works as an accountant for Prairie Band Potawatomi Nation. Matthew and Christine both grew up in 4-H, and their kids are involved, so they serve as community club leaders. As Farm Bureau members, the Russell family values the future of agriculture and the people in it. They are passionate about providing resources to anyone needing mental health support.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and LibertyLink that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
Proper nutrition before, during, and after physical activity plays a crucial role in muscle, skeletal, and athletic development. To help share this message and educate active families on how beef can fit effortlessly into the diets of their young athletes, the Kansas Beef Council collaborated with 2 Kansas City sports nutrition experts. Leslie Bonsi, a dietitian working with the Kansas City Chiefs, wrote an article that covers the 4 P's of protein to show how high-quality proteins can influence post-workout recovery and help promote performance. She also shared her favorite beef recipes for athletes. Since recovery is such an important aspect of athletic training, Sporting KC dietitian Kim Gaskell wrote an article that took a deeper dive into how protein helps rejuvenate muscles to ensure athletes are adequately prepared for their next game. Gaskell also noted in her article that beef burgers are a favorite among Sporting KC players. Both articles are being promoted through display ads on various websites, KBC social media channels, and through a handout that will be distributed during coaching and youth athletic events throughout the spring.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the Soybean Checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Good morning. This is Jacob Herzog with Pinion Risk Management. Now, we are 1 week after the March 28th USDA report. I'm sure we've all heard the numbers in one form or another by now. There's a lot of debate over the millions of missing acres that have come out of the total principal crop acres. Now, if this is true, then we'd be planting the least amount of primary crop acres since 2010. Knee-jerk reactions are, these acres are going to show up in the June report in some form or another, which they may. If there's any specific report, that would probably be the one. On the other hand, statistically speaking, most of the time going back to 2000, the combined total corn and soybean acres from March intentions to the final estimate have fallen within 2% of the initial guess, 18 of the last 23 times, and have missed the mark by more than 2% in either direction, the remaining 5 times. Of course, between now and then, we'll be debating a whole lot more than just acres, like the prospect of meeting USDA's expectations of trendline yield at 181 and 51 respectively, which if we do meet, will sit us with significant ending stocks. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that I'm bearish at this point, but if weather goes well in May, June, and July, it won't be looking good. Outside of last week's USDA report, planting conditions look good across the country. I'm sure some guys are more dry than they'd probably like, but key areas out east just got decent rain last week and are rearing to get planting very soon. This week's exports were pretty poor, but is balanced out by decent numbers in ethanol. Now, I know a lot of talking heads emphasize the need for a plan year-round, but this is really the time of the year rubber meets the road. If you would like to talk with somebody about a plan, you can reach us at 888-452-8751. I'm Jacob Herzog with Pinion Risk Management.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
That's our program this week. Be social with us online, kansasagreport.net, or our social media channels. I'm Ken Rogers. Thank you so much for joining us. Back with you again next week on the next Kansas Ag Report.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.